We all know that Emile Durkheim is a very famous French sociologist, and he was very much interested in education. During his lifetime, he delivered number of lectures, a large number of lectures, and 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 on the issues, on the various issues of society or various concepts. But he delivered the largest number of lectures on education. But it hardly appears hardly appeared uh, in his literatures. Basically, his literatures published in English. We didn't find any contribution, any book on education till he was alive. Most of his work on education was published posthumously. There is a very common thread in all the works of Emile Durkheim, and that is the ideas of social reality and and methodology to study these works. Actually, these uh, these 2 points run or get a place in his almost all work. You can say it is a running thread in all his works. That ideas on nature of social reality and methodology to study these works. Methodology and nature of social realities. These two things are the common thread in most of his works. Uh, when we talk of major contribution of uh, Emile Durkheim to sociology, uh, we can say that the theoretical interest of Emile Durkheim was rooted in political climate of France between 1817 and 1895. The defeat of France in Franco-Prussian War, long depression, the long depression that culminated uh, France in financial loss and led to decline in national unity. Hence, from 1880, France began to rebuild its national unity with the stress of science, with the stress on science and social progress, and emphasis on individualism and autonomy of individual in society. You know, even during French Revolution, individualism was promoted. And Durkheim's sociology is a reaction to French Revolution and individual uh, autonomy given preference over collective autonomy or collective culture or collective unity of society. He opined that the tendency to place the individual ahead of society threatened the cohesion of social institutions by overcoming the unifying nature of the collective order. He is supposed to be the founder of modern sociology. Of course, you know that Comte is father of sociology. But Durkheim is very important because he gave sociology its disciplinary boundary and methodological content. What should be studied within the sociology? Within this discipline, this boundary was defined by uh, Durkheim, and at the same time, how studies should be conducted, how the facts can be ascertained or fact can be uh, explored. So the methods, methodological content, or hence we actually the academic standing enjoyed by sociology today is due to Durkheim, or you can say that Durkheim has due to Durkheim, the sociology received the academic standing as it is today. Now, if we see the theoretical works of Durkheim, actually his doctoral thesis, The Division of Labor in Society, it was published in 1893. His work was on division of labor in society. Then the rules of sociological method in 1894. His study Suicide in 1897 and Elementary Forms of Religious Life in 1912. By this time, by 1912, there was no book on education. There was no what do you call work on education. There was no work published in English on education. The concepts and theories discussed by Durkheim as mainly include social solidarity, social cohesion, social facts, collective representation, and collective conscience. And his most important concept is social facts. And it is this concept that differentiates sociology from other social sciences. It is the social fact on which his entire sociological theorizing is based. He also articulated theories like anomie. Anomie is a condition in which there is a breakdown of social norms and guidance for citizens of society. Society loses control on the individual's propensity, or you can say tendency to follow rules. And when individuals loses the tendency to follow rules, there is an anomic situation that is called anomie. When we talk specifically Durkheim on education, we can say this idea on education was not as popular as the idea on other social institutions. As you know that his work on education was published much later, even posthumously, and translated in English quite late. Subjects like methodology, religion, moral, society, division of labor law, etc. These were discussed and these were reflected in their work. But not education, which was basically Cinderella of all of them. That was the cardinal point of all of them. And the most important thing is that Durkheim was very interested in education. He almost while he delivered a lecture on sociology, he also delivered a lecture on pedagogy. So it is said that almost all his lectures include education. His works like The Rules of Sociological Method and Society, that become very popular, that got uh, prominence among students across the globe, even the students of education, even among the students of education. These works were more popular than the work on education. His first work on education, that Evolution of Educational Thought, was published in 1938. Then some other works were also published, Education, Sociology, and some other works. And Durkheim, as I said, taught pedagogy along with sociology throughout his life. When he talked of sociology, he also talked of pedagogy. Ottaway is also a very famous sociologist. He published his seminal essay on the educational sociology of Emile Durkheim in the British Journal of Sociology in 1955. And Ottaway considers Durkheim as founder of educational sociology. He formulated uh, his theory on education like all other theories at the end of 19th century. Now, the historical developments during the uh, development uh, during the periods of enlightenment, it's also called Age of Reason. Uh, During 1715 and 1789, French historian has determined the age of reason or period of enlightenment between 1715 and 1789. Some other historians have taken it to 19th century, till 19th centuries. So several historical developments dating from the period of enlightenment, French Revolution, then Napoleonic governance, and finally the Third Republic. The period of Third Republic is between 1872 and 1940. This Third Republic is very important. All these historical factors, and especially this Third Republic, influenced uh, the education-related thoughts of Durkheim. During the Third Republic, there was a debate on education. And this debate was between proponents of secular ideas and secular education, you can say, and proponents of religious education. There was a debate between church and state, or you can say religion and secularization. And during this republic, Republicans represented revolutionary ideas of democracy and secularism. And French laws enacted primary education system, and that guaranteed free, compulsory, and secular education to the children. As he was very much influenced with the political situation, social political situation of France, and especially during Third Republic, he inculcated the ideas of democracy, secularism, and science in his writing. And he suggested science and its methods as a tool to guide societal reform and the development of new secular society. He believed that education has the potential of building a new social order based on secularized morality. He never talked of religious morality. Religion also supposed to be a source of morality, but there was a debate between church and state. People who wanted religious education, people who wanted secular education. That's why uh, um, his morality is secularized morality. It has nothing to do with the religion. Linkage between Durkheim's idea on education and his sociological thought can be studied under various heads. For example, education is a social fact. You know, the social fact is very important, uh, rather most important concept given by Durkheim. Then education is transmission of cultures. Moral education is also very important, his contribution. Pedagogy and sociology and function of educational sociology. Now let us start with education and social fact. As I said earlier several times, Durkheim considers education as a social fact. And in the opening essay of the book, this book, which was later published, Education and Sociology, the first essay in that book is Education, Its Nature and Role. And this essay, uh, it says that education is essentially social in nature. It is more closer to sociology. Education is a social fact that is very closer to sociology. And it believes that there is no perfect and ideal education system for all the societies. Education corresponds to the and needs and needs of society, and that reflects the customs, beliefs, and culture of the day-to-day life. So, depending upon the context of the society, education will change. There won't be. He never suggested any perfect or ideal system of education. Education being a social fact, it can be studied like any other social facts, detailed in rules of sociological method. Sociological method, rules of sociological method is basic contribution. And you know this rules of sociological method, it is a thread which runs across all his works. So further, the method he advocates to study social facts relating to educational process is largely a historical observation approach. We know that education is a process of socialization, or it transmits culture from one generation to another. Or education is the influence exercised by adult generation on those who are yet ready for life. And education arouses and develops in child physical, moral, and intellectual. Develops what you call uh, physical, moral, and intellectual states of the children, or intellectual states which are demanded of him by both political society as a whole, and a special milieu for which he is specially destined. So, education develops in child, makes physical, moral, and intellectual development of the child, and this development has two basic purposes. One, it prepares the children for political society as a whole, as a common citizen. He will cherish the order of the society, or uh, uh, he will uh, he will learn the norms, values, so that he can contribute in the in the order of the society. Society in society always tends to be in equilibrium state. It wants always tends to be in order, and children learns a value system. Children shares the common minimum value system of society, so that he would be contributing to the uh, to keeping society in order. And another is he would be prepared for the social special milieu, where uh, where he can be prepared for some special role, and for that special role there might need a different kind of physical, moral, and intellectual training. So education prepares individual or child for as a common citizen of society, and it also prepares the child for some special role in the society. As far as moral education is concerned, uh, in the backdrop of Third Republic, the school was forbidden to teach any principles of revealed religion. You know that the state versus church, the great debate was going during the Third Republic, and during this republic, the state forbidden the school to teach any principles of religion. Moral education, school was allowed to, or a school was encouraged to teach morality as rational principles, not as a part of religion. Your society is a source of all moral authority, and we are only moral beings in so far as we are social beings. We are moral beings because we are social beings. If we are not social being, there is no question of morality. The primary function of a school is socialization. That means the school is an appropriate agent for moral education. While child is being socialized, this morality to giving them moral education is also part of socialization. And morality is to determine rules of conduct and spirit of discipline. And he believes that schools must be stricter than home. And teacher is representative of the authority of society. In the same way, you see the priest is the interpreter of God. Likewise, teacher is the representative of the authority of society, and he brings discipline among the children. And morality determines the rule of conduct and the spirit of discipline. Now, discipline in the class is not a method to keep order. Discipline is not a method to keep order. Do this, do that, or some kind of order. But it is an instrument for developing morality. Discipline means, discipline in a sense is morality. If you develop morality among the children, they would be automatically disciplined. So it is not like that to keep methods. There is no method for teachers to keep children in order. There is no what you call set methods. Basically, discipline is an instrument to develop morality among the children. And discipline never means only regulation of each and every activity. Discipline never means certain regulations or certain activities that children uh, have to perform. But it is the responsibility of teacher to inspire the child to be dutiful from within. So discipline means making child dutiful from within. It is not that to learn them certain what you call certain regulations or certain acts. So certain acts, by defining certain acts or regulations, you cannot make a child disciplined. If you wanted to make a child discipline, then you will have to make the child dutiful from within. And teacher as a primary factor in teacher basically is a primary factor in developing the spirit and discipline in the child. He was also against corporal punishment. He says corporal punishment is dehumanizing, and he wanted uh, uh, and his moral education that will inspire child a feel that inspire in the child a feeling for dignity of man. So dignity of feeling for dignity of man, feeling for dignity of man is a part of morality. So he never allows corporal punishment. That itself is a dehumanizing. As far as pedagogy is concerned, uh, Durkheim distinguishes education from pedagogy. Both are not same thing. Still, we don't take it as the same thing. Both are different. And pedagogy uh, consists not only of actions. Pedagogy, when we teach pedagogy, we teach the students to how to reinforce the behavior of the students, how to retain their attention, how to write on the blackboards, how to write, how to do this, how to do that. So we teach students certain actions. Pedagogy is not certain actions, but pedagogy is a theory, and it is a reflection upon education. Pedagogy is basically theory. And pedagogy is a reflection upon education. The kind of education you are having, pedagogy is the reflection of that education. What theoretical knowledge you are having about education, what kind of uh, uh, ideas you are having about education. Pedagogy is the reflection of that ideas. It is a methodological thought that is applied to the process of education. It is a methodological thought. So it is not simply actions. It is reflection upon whole of the education. Ideas of education you are having. Pedagogy is a kind of educational theory that reflects upon practice of education and aims to guide it, to enlighten it, to evaluate it, and to remedy inadequacies. As far as whether it is science or arts, it is difficult to answer. Pedagogy is neither art nor science. It is mental attitude between the two. It is art and science. Durkheim stressed that pedagogy may fall outside the scope of scientific process. Basically, it is a part of moral choice. So finally, we can say that the pedagogy is a reflection of the educational thoughts or educational ideas, educational views we receive. Pedagogy must reflect that. If you are having, suppose, the views of Paulo Freire, and you and when you adopt a pedagogy, that pedagogy must reflect the views of Paulo Freire. Suppose when we talk of this Durkheim, now his social order, his social consciousness, and many other concepts. So all these things must reflect in the pedagogy. It is reflection. Pedagogy cannot be isolated from the theory. As far as function of educational sociology is concerned, we believe that Durkheim is a founder of educational sociology, and his ideas on education, although received little attention in early days, or you can say outside the France in early days, but later on it received appropriate attention across the globe. And functionalist orientation of education. Functionalism is very important view of Emile Durkheim. We have already studied it. And this functionalism, they believes in social order. Society tends to be in order. And functionalist orientation to education is useful for answering questions related to role of education and relationship between education and other social institutions in modern societies. So function of sociology is to study education as a social fact, to study the role of education, relationship of education with other social institutions, and answer questions regarding these interrelationships. So as you know, the scope of sociology, this scope or sociology as a whole, this boundary has been fixed by Durkheim. So you can say the function of sociology is to understand education as a whole. Education is a fact, education is a process, education is a product, education in relationship of various other, education is a system and relationship other social systems, and all this. Finally, we can say that Durkheim has the great contribution, rather greatest contribution in sociology of education, and he's also supposed to be the founder of sociology of education. Although he was very interested in education, and while whenever he delivered a lot of lectures, and most of lectures he also talked of education and pedagogy, along with other social issues or social aspects. Although his work on education became popular, especially outside France, much later when they were translated in English. They were their works were presented in English, and as far as his concept of education is concerned, or his ideas on education is concerned, that can be discussed under education social fact, education as a transmission of cultures, moral education, pedagogy and function of sociology. And at the same time, we also discussed that the interest of the regions of interest of Durkheim towards educational sociology was various historical events in France from the age of Enlightenment to the Third Republic. I think now you have some idea about Durkheim and his contribution in the area of education. And thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you once again.